Dandin. What 10 young men did. The Daśakumāracarita. And some notes from the Avantisundari. I'd advise you first to pick up either the Penguin translation or the version which I read from the Clay Sanskrit Library. Daśakumāracarita. This is from my blog, the introduction to the Daśakumāracarita. Dandin lived and wrote in Kanchi, in the south of India near the end of the 7th century CE, under the Pallavan king Apaharavarman I, and into the 8th century CE, under Narasimhavarman II. The Daśakumāracarita has been translated in different ways. Isabel Onions translated Dandin's work as What 10 Young Men Did. The Penguin's edition's title is Tales of the 10 Princes. The first translated title is more accurate, since the majority of the young men are not born into nobility. In a quote from the Karada Mirror of Poetry, Dandin defines the genre Karava, great poem, and by extension neatly defines what type of literary work the Daśakumāracarita is. It springs from a historical incident, or is otherwise based on some fact. It turns upon the fruition of the fourfold ends, and its hero is clever and noble. Through sentiments of love in separation and through marriages, and by descriptions of the birth and rise of princes, and likewise through state council, embassy, advance, battle, and the hero's triumph. Kavya Deza 1:15-19, translation Balvalaka. It doesn't perfectly describe the characters of the young men, the subject of separate chapters in the story. Magadunian king Rajahamsa loses his throne in the capital city Pushpodbhava. Another name for the city is Pataliputra, to his enemy King Manasara of Malava in a great battle. Rajahamsa ends up in exile with his court in the Vindhara forest. When he reaches maturity, Rajavahana and his companions embark on a wild conquest to reclaim his father's lost empire. Rajavahana is temporarily separated from his companions when he goes to the city of the dead. Manasara retires as an ascetic after defeating Rajahamsa, since he does not feel that he deserves to rule, because he sees that even in defeat, Rajahamsa is more virtuous. Young men go on a number of journeys to different cities in India, and they use immoral acts of deception and murder to supplant their enemies' thrones. The main narrative focuses on the conflict of Rajavahana and his companions with Manasara's family. Usually these conspiracies and plots involve women, including princesses who are desired by the young men's rivals, who are married to them or are family members. The young men and women fall in love with each other at first sight. His wife and queen is Vansimati. He had earlier defeated Manasara, the king of the Malava region. Manasara was allowed to keep his region by Rajahamsa, but he was kept under surveillance. Angry and shamed by his defeat, he propitiates Shiva at his Manakalara temple in Luján. Shiva gives him a sword with which Manasara will be invincible to all enemies. Rajahamsa fights for a long period, but eventually Manasara throws his sword, which kills the king's charioteer, and he is knocked senseless. His horses take him through many lands until he ends up in the same forest where he sent his wife and court. Vasumati wants to kill herself at this exact moment because she fears Rajahamsa is dead and has lost his kingdom. Vasumati has a son who is named Rajavahana. All the Kumars in the forest and Rajavahana have a great education. This will become in handy when they visit and win over regions from their enemies. After Rajahamsa's wounds are healed, he and his ministers visit the sage Vamadeva on the bank of the river Narmada. The ascetic tells Rajahamsa that two sons of Krishna, Pradyumna, and Sam will be born to him. In the Avantisundari, Vasumati's first son is Rajavahana. He is taken from her by a swan. At the end of the story, the writer returns to Vasumati and Rajahamsa at Valmande Hermitage. The separation of Rajavahana from his companions. Rajavahana in the underworld. Rajavahana and the other Kumars meet Mantragupta. Mantragupta recounts that he was an ascetic who had fought a group of men when they were attacking a Brahmin. He went to the underworld when the men killed him, but he was brought back to life because he had intervened to save a Brahmin. Mantragupta is the camping Kala of Bana's Kandabara. Rajavahana and Mantragupta both go down to the underworld. Mantragupta marries the daughter of the king of the Asuras, who Vishnu had killed. Mantragupta, in burning his body, becomes the king of this world, and he is known as Agniratha. Chapter 3. Somadatta's Story. Introduction. The meeting with a Brahmin. Somadatta meets his friends in a palanquin, but he's ill. He tells his story, but due to his illness he can only use the 24 letters of the alphabet. This is not the case in the work as we have it, but originally this may have been the case. Somadatta finds a gemstone in a river and he takes it. Somadatta meets in a forest temple to Shiva a Brahmin with his sons. Somadatta asks about the army commander of the nearby camp, Mantragupta. He is told by the Brahmin that Mantragupta was rejected by the father of a woman he wished to marry, Vamalushana of Patala. Mantragupta laid siege to the city, and her father is forced to give Vamalushana over to him. Somadatta is told that Vamalushana is being escorted by a minister of Viruketi. Manapala has set up his camp separately to Mantragupta's. Somadatta, out of pity, gives the Brahmin the gemstone. Later the Brahmin returns to the temple in chains with the king of Patala's soldiers. They arrest Somadatta, and he is thrown in prison when the Brahmin tells the soldiers that he received the gemstone from him. In the prison, Somadatta meets the other thieves. Method. Alliance with thieves and Manapala. The thieves tell Somadatta that they were given instructions to use an underground passage and to enter Mantragupta's palace, but he wasn't there at the time, so they took his treasure. Somadatta makes friends with the thieves and frees them and himself. Somadatta meets Manapala soon afterwards and becomes his ally. Mantragupta threatens Manapala when he hears that the minister has met the thieves. They come to battle, and Somadatta kills Mantragupta. Somadatta marries Vamalushana. Asiddha tells them both that if they go to Shiva's temple in the Mantragupta to propitiate him, they will see a lost friend, Rajavahana. Then Somadatta and Rajavahana meet Pushpodbhava. Chapter 4. Pushpodbhava's Story. Introduction. The Salvation of Strangers. Pushpodbhava saves a stranger, Ratanodbhava, who falls from the sky. He realizes when the stranger speaks to him about his circumstances that the man is his lost father. Asiddha had prophesied to the parents that after they were separated in a shipwreck, that they would be reunited after 16 years. This occurs only through their son. Also, Pushpodbhava stops his mother, Suvrata, almost at the same time burning herself to death because she cannot bear the separation from Ratanodbhava, because 16 years had passed. He settles his parents in a ashram, which means a hermitage monastery, and carries on his quest. Pushpodbhava recounts how he saves and makes a friend of a man who was among a group attacked in the forest. Pushpodbhava's method and Balachandrika. Pushpodbhava views that money is the best means to help Rajavahana in his wild quest to conquer cities and reclaim his kingdom. Associating with merchants, Pushpodbhava gains an audience with the king of Malava, Manasara. Pushpodbhava falls in love with the sister of the man he had saved, called Balachandrika, and asked his daughter, Balachandrika, to pay respects to my parents. As she did so, the mellow moonlight of her beauty pervaded the whole apartment, and she, having stolen my heart, withdrew. Later he finds Balachandrika trying to kill herself after hearing her lament. She is upset because Daśakumāracarita, the younger brother of Apaharavarman of the Malava royal family, wants to marry her. The prince's method. Using the device of an evil spirit, Pushpodbhava has the following idea: that a story is to be told to the populace of the city that Balachandrika is possessed. Later he finds Balachandrika trying to kill herself after hearing her lament. She is upset because Daśakumāracarita, the younger brother of Apaharavarman of the Malavan royal family, wants to marry her. Pushpodbhava's method comes up with this idea: to use the device of an evil spirit. He has the idea that a story should be told to the populace of the city that Balachandrika is possessed. Daśakumāracarita should be warned that he should only marry Balachandrika if he is of the same caste of her. Pushpodbhava disguises himself as a maid and accompanies his love to Daśakumāracarita, where the hero kills him. After this, Pushpodbhava marries Balachandrika. With the use of disguises and the violent method that Pushpodbhava uses to kill Daśakumāracarita, he kills him with his hands, knees, and feet. The story is similar to Kichkar's death at the hands of Brahma in the Mahabharata. Kichkar had tried to seduce Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, when she was disguised as a female servant. At the end of the chapter, with Rajavahana, Pushpodbhava and his wife go to the city of Avantisundari, and Pushpodbhava introduces the prince to his parents and his wife. Chapter 5. Rajavahana's story. Introduction. Location: Avantisundari. Avantisundari and her friend Balachandrika go to the pleasure gardens to play with the other ladies of the court. Rajavahana goes with Pushpodbhava to see Avantisundari. There isn't an express reason mentioned why he wants to go to see her. In the pools in the garden there are many species of birds, including swans. Rajavahana and Avantisundari. And the grace of her gait was playful and languid, in the manner of the motion of intoxicated swans. Daśakumāracarita 5:6. As the couple fall in love, Rajavahana remembers a pious ascetic spoke about a curse. The lovers will be separated in the future for 2 months, and Rajavahana's feet will be chained together. The lovers will also remember their past lives, though Rajavahana is remembering it now. In the Daśakumāracarita, Rajavahana remembers Avantisundari's past life as Rajanavati, for he loved her in a previous life as Shamba. This is explained more clearly in the Avantisundari. In a past life, which Balachandrika recounts of the lovers, she speaks of how Samba, the son of Krishna, Rajavahana, was asked by his lover to fetter a swan as an act of love. Avantisundari 625-70. However, the swan is really an ascetic who curses Shamba, Rajavahana, and Avantisundari. A man called Vidyeshavahana offers to help Rajavahana in his love affair and to get him into the royal harem. Vidyeshavahana promises that he will bewitch Manasara and the population, and that he will marry Rajavahana and Avantisundari in a ceremony which will appear to be an illusion in front of everyone. Their marriage is classed as a Gandharva type, since it is unsupervised and it is in secret from Avantisundari's parents. It is only when lovers have made love that the true beginning of what we have as the text of Dandin's Daśakumāracarita begins. Rajavahana's imprisonment. After making love, Rajavahana wakes to find that his feet have been magically chained together. Avantisundari screams when she sees this, and alarms the other women who alert the harem's guards. Rajavahana, her brother, takes Rajavahana as a prisoner, imprisons Avantisundari and his younger brother. Rajavahana's companion, Pushpodbhava, had killed Chandavara's brother, so this is another source of enmity between them. Manasara and his queen prevent Rajavahana's death by threatening suicide. Apaharavarman tells Darpasara, who is the real heir to the throne, who is the son of Manasara, what has happened. Chandavaraman goes to war against the king of anger because he will not give him his daughter in marriage. After 2 months, the chains transform into a divine lady called Suratamanjara, who relates a greater war to Rajavahana than the conflict between his family and Manasara's. A mysterious warrior is heard to have killed Chandavaraman as the chapter closes. The War of the Vidyadhara. Mansavaga and his son Naravanhandaratta are at war against Naravahana, the king of Vatsa, and the emperor of the Vidyadhara. The Vidyadhara are a class of wisdom beings associated with the god Shiva. They are demigods. The story of Naravahana is narrated in Gunadhara's lost Brihadathatha, which means the great narrative or story, though we do have a number of surviving works based on it. Chapter 7. Apaharavarman's story. Introduction. The Gambler and the Thief. Apaharavarman meets several men who are abandoned or who lose their wealth to a courtesan called Karamanjara. Apaharavarman sees that there are many misers in Champa, an Angan city. This prompts him to teach the city a lesson on the transient nature of money and rich objects. He becomes a gambler and thief. His involvement in a love affair. Mitra is in love with the rich Kubadatta's daughter. Kubera is the god of wealth. Mitra, out of pity, gave all his money to the beggars of Champa. He was originally promised by the father to marry the daughter when he was a rich man. Once he has no money, Kubadatta decides to marry his daughter to a rich caravan merchant called Arthapala instead. With Mitra, Apaharavarman, with the gal as a lookout, robs everything from her father's house. Then they use an elephant to destroy Arthapala's house. The gal's name is Kulapalaka, which means her family's protector. Apaharavarman falls in love with and seduces Karamanjara's younger sister, Ragamanjara. Continuation of the lesson. Royal Affairs Part 1. Arthapala instructs Dhanamitra to appeal to the king of Anga with a story of a magic pouch that, when worshipped, can fill with gold. Arthapala is arrested after becoming drunk, and he is put in prison. So that Dhanamitra is not implicated in connection with him, he ensures, with the help of Ragamanjara's nurse, Shrikalika, that the court will think that Dhanamitra is in fact his enemy. Arthapala, through the nurse, is also able to win over Princess Ambalika of Anga to his cause, and Ragamanjara and Ambalika become friends. Arthapala is also able to deceive the chief of police, Kantaka, that Ambalika is in love with him, and that he has heard from a fortune teller that Kantaka will become king. Royal Affairs Part 2. Shrikalika puts the idea into Kantanga's head that he could use a good thief to dig a tunnel so that he could access the harem and meet Ambalika. Kantanga has the idea of using his prisoner, Arthapala, to dig the tunnel. He plans afterwards to kill him. Apaharavarman, realizing Kantanga's wicked design, decides that he can kill him, since Kantanga has decided to betray him. Arthapala also falls in love with Ambalika when he enters and sees her in the harem. He paints a picture of her asleep, and leaves a verse behind speaking of his love and his desire for her. Shrikalika's stories make Ambalika fall in love with him. Return to the main narrative. Shandavarman abducts Ambalika when he laid siege to the city. And when he is about to marry the princess, Apaharavarman intervenes and kills him. Chapter 8. Upaharavarman's story. Introduction. Vidhara Mifla. In a hermitage, Upaharavarman hears the story of Apaharavarman from an old female ascetic. The sons of his older brother rebelled and took the throne from him. She took the youngest son of Apaharavarman in her arms when the bandits attacked the king, when he was travelling to Lord of Shuma, who could have aided him in his familial conflict. After fighting for a long time, Apaharavarman was captured, and his queen was also taken. Upaharavarman reveals to the nurse that he was the son she saved. He tells her that he will kill Vishruta, his love interest, Kalpasudara, queen and wife of Vishruta, who is the Apaharavarman's enemy, so his father's enemy. She is the daughter of Kalindavarman, the lord of Karamupa. The ascetic's daughter, Pushpodbhava, works for her. The prince's method. Cunning deception is the only way ahead in this situation, and it is women who are the fertile begetters of deceptions. Upaharavarman asks his foster mother for information about the harem so that he can devise a cunning plan. He asks Pushpodbhava to converse with Queen Kalpasudra and to poison her mind towards her husband, and to use the examples of ideal husbands of Vasavadatta. See Subhadra's epic Vasavadatta. He also asks Pushpodbhava's mother to keep her eye on what happens in the harem. He also creates a self-portrait. After finding out his plan is working, Upaharavarman has it taken to Kalpasudara. Kalpasudara reveals to the ascetic that her mother, Manavati, was the best friend of Upaharavarman's mother. The women had promised before they had children that if they both had a boy and a girl, that these offspring should be married. Kalpasudra was only given to her husband when it was thought that the sons of Apaharavarman were dead. Vikrama's love for Kalpasudra is inconsistent. Kalpasudra says that he made love to Ramalantika, one of his dancing girls, though earlier the hero's foster mother says that Vikrama loved only his wife. So who does he love? Is he unfaithful, or does he just care for his wife? There is a moral issue of adultery here for the hero. As he says, the deed is all but done. Nevertheless, the violation of another man's wife could be an offence against Dharma, the religious law. Still, the authors of the law books permit even such an offence if one will win thereby both material profit and love. Moreover, I shall perform this transgression with the ulterior motive of bringing about my parents' liberation from bondage. Vikrama had imprisoned his enemy, the father of the mother of Upaharavarman. Thus my action will not be only sin-free, but it may even gain me a certain modicum of religious merit. Upaharavarman's further deceptions. Upaharavarman, by stealth, enters the palace and finds and makes love to his love, Kalpasudra. He tells Kalpasudra afterwards to show the painted pictures himself to her husband and to tell a tale. That an ascetic woman showed her the picture, and that in a religious ritual her husband must make several sacrifices, and, considering that the man in the picture is so handsome, he himself will become this man. Afterwards, Kalpasudra must tell him that she is not happy, since what woman would want such a handsome man, because every woman would love him. This occurs, and Vikrama attempts to placate her, saying he will not even think about other women. Is Vikrama being honest here? The ritual involves our hero. Upaharavarman continues the ritual and speaks as if he hears the woman Kalpasudra. Vikrama is surprised to hear his wife. He does not realize that it is a man speaking to him. Upaharavarman makes Vikrama speak a confession. Vikrama tells Kalpasudra that he is planning on killing Apaharavarman with poisoned food, and he will pretend it is dysentery. He will also call on Vishruta, his younger brother, to invade the land of the Pudras. He also reveals several other plots. Upaharavarman tells him that at this point his life is now over, and he kills him. He cuts him in half and offers him as an oblation to Agni, the god. Everyone believes him to be Vikrama with his new body and face. And after sleeping with his new wife / queen, he tells his minister to free his uncle. He tells his mother and father, of course, who he really is. He learns from Simhavarman, a friend of Apaharavarman, that Champa has been attacked by Chandavarman, so he marches with an army to support him. Chapter 9. Arthapala's story. Introduction. The location, Varanasi, the city of Kashi. Arthapala journeys to the Avimukteshvara Linga in Benares. He meets a powerful man who is in distress called Punabhadra, who is a thief. Kamapala sentenced the man to death by being crushed by an elephant. He challenged the elephant and its mahout and survived. Kamapala spares the thief in the situation that he will work for him. Kamapala's account. This is the father of Arthapala, and this account matches the one in Avantisundari. Kamapala rules as a minister and effectively crown prince. He has multiple wives. Dandin provides here an account of their previous lives, but it isn't very clear here. Kamapala brings up the young king Simhaghosha to be a good monarch, but evil ministers persuade the young king to change his ways. Kamapala's mortal wife is Kanamati, sister of Simhaghosha. Taravali is his divine wife. Taravali abandons protecting Kamapala from Simhaghosha because he says Kantamati's name instead of hers in bed. Simhaghosha hears about this and has Kamapala arrested, and he is to have his eyes gouged out in a way which will cause his death. Arthapala reveals his identity to Punabhadra and states that he cannot by arms free his father because he could easily be killed by his enemies. Arthapala refers to his mother being Kantamati. Arthapala sees a poisonous snake and plans on using it against his father, so that he will make everyone think that the man has been poisoned. He knows a remedy to save his father. The execution of a Brahmin such as Kamapala is actually an issue at this point. It's an issue in law. The executioner reads out a list of Kamapala's crimes, but the decision of the judge is not correct. Now a judge has ruled that justice for a Brahmin who lusts after royal power is to enter into blind darkness. Kamapala is restored to life. As Arthapala thought, King Simhaghosha is happy by the terrible events occurring, and he grants his sister the ritual that she can share the death pile of her husband. Kamapala instructs Arthapala that they should stay in his house. He has many warriors, and he knows that the people are not happy with how he was treated by the king, so he can use them against him. Simhaghosha attacks Arthapala, but his soldiers repel the king. Arthapala hears from Punabhadra where the king's bedchamber is in the palace. Digging from the house which is close by, Arthapala ends up in his enemy's harem. He meets a woman who will become his love. He is dazzled by her beauty. An old white-haired woman begs him to show mercy to the women, and she explains who the lady is. She is Manakakarnika, who is the child of Chandaghosha's wife, Ankaravati. Chandasamir, her grandfather, had decided that she should be betrothed to Daśakumāracarita of the Manasara lineage. Kantamati won her in a card game, though. Manikarnika and the other women were brought up in a subterranean palace, but Chandasamir only having told the secret of the palace to the old lady, Simhaghosha is ignorant about it. The only entrance to the palace is a trapdoor in the bedroom of the king, so Arthapala enters it and binds the king, bringing him back to Kamapala. Arthapala with an army goes out to support Apaharavarman and ends up meeting Rajavahana. Arthapala forces his father-in-law to prostrate himself before Rajavahana. Chapter 10. Pramati's story. A lover's dream. Pramati, in his search for Rajavahana, sleeps under a great tree in the Vidhara mountain range. As an act of protection, he prays to the god of the tree. As he sleeps, Pramati is transported to a mansion, where he sees many beautiful women asleep. He meets his love asleep. Her eyes open slightly, and her name is Navamalaka, also falls in love with him. Both Pramati and the lady lay together. Pramati, feeling sleepy, appears to wake up under the tree again, and he wonders if the previous night was only a dream. Pramati decides to go on hunger strike before the goddess of the area, until he is informed of whether it was an illusion or a dream. Tavala. At Pramati's declaration of his hunger strike, a divine woman appears to him with a striking description. Her lips seem to spew forth the fire of separation from one's beloved. Their lustre scorched in the furnace of her outbreaths, pale pink, chapped and unpainted. The woman with love embraces Pramati like a mother. She reveals herself to be Tavali, the daughter of Manabhaja. Pramati is Arthapala's half-brother. Tavali recounts how she left Kampala. A Rakshasa demon came to her in a dream and cursed her. The demon possessed her for a year to hurt her and separated her from her home. When she met Pramati, she was freed from the curse. Tavali was the goddess who transported Pramati to the mansion. Tavali leaves Pramati and informs him that though Navamalika loves him, it is up to him to go and meet her. Navamalika is named after the Navamalika jasmine. The journey to Shavasti. Pramati journeys to the city of Shavasti. On the road at a market, Pramati observes a cockfight, and he informs an old Brahmin, Planshalasam Shaman, which bird is superior. The Brahmin acts as a kind host to Pramati, bathing and feeding him in his house. They continue to Shavasti, and the old man returns but asks him to remember him if he needs aid in the future. After falling asleep in a park, Pramati wakes up to see a woman walking towards him surprised. She is carrying a picture of him. The woman also acts as a host to Pramati, and she asks if anything happened to him which was extraordinary on the road to the city, since he is a stranger. Pramati realizes that this lady is a companion to Navamalika. Pramati takes the painting and sketches Navamalika from his memory. The female companion asks Pramati to recount the event, his stratagem to unite with Navamalika. Pramati tells the woman to return to Navamalika and to wait a few days. He will think of a plan to enter the harem freely. Pramati returns to the Brahmin and asks for his aid. Pramati has the following plan: to appear in a female disguise and as the Brahmin's daughter. He wishes to go with the Brahmin before King Rajavahana and to tell him that her intended husband has gone to Ujjaini and he hasn't returned. The Brahmin wishes to go but cannot leave his daughter unattended, so he asks the king to look after her in the harem. The second part of the plan. In the following month, the women will take part in a festival at the Tifia Falls. He wishes the Brahmin to wait at the Sakanda Kartika temple and to bring white clothes. Pramati will swim over and will change his costume. Pramati will become the son-in-law of the Brahmin. Pramati expects the Navamalika will not be able to eat without her female companion. This will lead to great sorrow and chaos in the city. And exactly at this point, the Brahmin is to introduce Pramati as the man who went to Ujjaini. Further stratagems unite with Navamalika. The king will be shocked, since he cannot explain where the Brahmin's daughter has gone. Pramati advises the Brahmin to not accept the king's sympathetic advice, and he should prepare to burn himself. The king will try to give the Brahmin all his wealth, and then his daughter as a final exchange. He will also be convinced that Pramati is capable to rule as well, just from the look of it. The Brahmin achieves everything that Pramati had planned. Pramati, with military aid, goes to the support of King Somadatta at Champa, where he meets up with Rajavahana. Chapter 11. Mitragupta's story. The Festival of the Bull. In the city of Damalipta, in a park, Mitragupta observes a festival. Mitragupta meets a sad young man playing a veena lute. He asks what is the purpose of the festival. The young man, his name is Koshadeza, which means slave to treatment, tells him that the lord of Suma, which is the region, Tungadhanavan, prayed to Durga Vidyavasena for the birth of 2 children because he did not have any. He fasted, and the goddess told him in a dream that he would have a son and a daughter. The daughter would, from her 7th year to her marriage, need to perform a bull dance ritual to the goddess. Madini, which means earth, the queen of Suma, gave birth to a boy and a girl. The girl was called Kundukavati, which means the bearer of the ball. Kushadasi states that he fell in love with Kundukavati's girlfriend and foster sister, Chandavasena. He is sad because Chandavasena, against her will, is in the hands of Tukavana's son, Bhimadevana. Chandavasena is able to visit the musician, who informs Mitragupta and the woman that he wanted to see her before he killed himself. She of course opposes his suicide. Kushadasa has been nicknamed by his opponents as Veshadasa, which means slave of the courtesan, due to his love for Chandavasa. She begs Kushadasa to take her away. Mitragupta promises them that he will aid them. Mantragupta falls in love with Mitragupta as she is observed in the ball festival. Mitragupta and Bhimadevana. Mitragupta meets Bhimadevana when he visits the park. At first, Bhimadevana treats him as a good host. But as the hero sleeps, however, his rival has many strong men bind him with an iron chain. Bhimadevana tells the bound Mitragupta that a hunchback woman in his employment informed about his plan with Chandavasa. He knows of a prophecy by the goddess Durga that he would be subordinate to the man who weds his sister. Bhimadevana commands his henchmen to throw Mitragupta into the sea. Mitragupta is able to grasp a plank and save himself. A Greek ship spots him and helps him aboard. The Greek ship, however, is overpowered by a cormorant warship. Facing defeat, Mitragupta tells the Greeks that the only thing they can do is set him free, since he will be able to defeat their enemies single-handedly. He kills all apart from the captain, who he realizes is his enemy, Bhimadevana. Mitragupta takes his enemy captive. Mitragupta and the Brahmin demon. The ship finds shelter after his conflict on an island. Mitragupta sees a great mountain and climbs to the top of it. A Brahmin demon captures him and questions him. If Mitragupta cannot answer his questions, the demon will eat him. Mitragupta speaks of Dumni, Gomni, Nimbavati, and Nitambavati. These stories of women illustrate several moral and philosophical issues, which are the following. What is cruel? That is the heart of a woman. What is dear and beneficial for a householder? The virtues of a housewife. And these stories are found in the Pali Jatakas, Kula Panduma, and Malhumaga Jatakas. What is desire? Imagination. What is the means to achieve the difficult? Wisdom. After Mitragupta tells the story to the demon, he sees another demon carrying a woman in the sky. The Brahmin demon is angered and fights the other demon for the woman. As they fight, the demon drops her, and Mitragupta catches the woman and realizes it is his love, Mantragupta. Mitragupta returns and marries his love, and he makes sure that Chandavasena and Kushadasa marry as well. Mitragupta goes to Simhavarman's support, and he meets Rajavahana. Chapter 12. Mantragupta's story. Kanakalika and a sorcerer. Mantragupta's lips are damaged by his lover's bite marks, which means he cannot speak with the label lip sounds P, B, and M. Near the city of Kalinga, there was a forest near the funeral ground. Mantragupta goes to sleep here. He hears the cry of a servant and his wife speaking about an evil sorcerer, and he investigates. Mantragupta sees the sorcerer conducting a ritual. He commands that Kanakalika, the daughter of Kandana, the king of Kalinga, should be brought to him. Mantragupta kills the sorcerer as he is about to sacrifice the woman. Kanakalika and Mantragupta fall in love with each other. King Jarasingha captures Kandara and Kanakalika. The king of Kalinga takes his city folk and women and his daughter to a seaside grove for 13 days. His only concern is for pleasure, and the king is dangerously in peril. A rival lord of Andhra, Jayasinga, invades and captures the king and his family. Mantragupta despairs and doesn't want to eat because he knows that Jayasinga will kill the king and take his daughter as his wife. A man of high caste informs Mantragupta that Jayasinga has decided not to kill the king because he desires his daughter. Kanakakaleka, however, at this moment is also possessed by a Langsha, which is a type of demon, and will not appear before anyone, even Jayasinga. Knowing that his enemy wishes to exorcise Kanakaleka, Mantragupta takes the dreadlocks of the sorcerer he had recently killed and disguises himself as an ascetic. Mantragupta in Andhra. Mantragupta goes to the city of Andhra with many students as an entourage. The fame of Mantragupta's knowledge is heard by Jayasinga, who asks him to come to free Kanakaleka's from Kubera's demon. Mantragupta congratulates Jayasinga, telling him that he is destined to win Karakaleka. However, at present, due to the demon, he cannot be with her. If he just waits 3 days, Mantragupta will ensure that everything will be well, of course. At night, Mantragupta goes to the nearby lake and digs a cavity under the water, and he worships the sun god. When Jayasinga arrives at the lake, Mantragupta informs him that he has consecrated the lake so that the king will have what he wants. He tells the king that when half of the night has passed, Jayasinga should dive into the lake and lay on the floor at the bottom. When he hears a roar of water, he should rise, and everyone will see him safe, and they will rejoice. Mantragupta adds an important detail, that the demon will be defeated because the king will look differently. Mantragupta does ask the king to think about it. He also advises the king to dredge the lake, to put fishermen on it with nets beforehand, and to station his army close by so that he is protected. When Jayasinga dives down into the lake, of course, Mantragupta is waiting underneath. The hero kills him brutally, and he places Jayasinga's body in the hollow. Mantragupta is described waiting as a nakra, as a crocodile. Rising from the lake, Mantragupta appears as Jayasinga, but with different looks and body. He explains that he has been granted a new look, far, far lovelier than the old one, with a lotus flower luster. Mantragupta asks Shaza if she can recognize who he is. The female companion tells Kanakaleka that Mantragupta is the king now, and that her father is freed. He becomes the ruler of Andhra in Kalinga, and he marries his love. Mantragupta goes to the support of the king of Anga. Rajavahana's final judgment on this story. Isabel Onia's translation, which is the classic Sanskrit edition. How marvellous the part the great spiritual hero played. His dreadful penance has borne fruit already in this very life, it seems. But joking apart, one sees here the nature of the union of wisdom and courage, with the attainment of the highest delight as their offspring. Atticus Haxor's translation, which is in the Penguin edition. This tale of the great sage is wonderful, says Rajavahana. It was a very hard but fruitful penance. But just aside, one sees here wisdom and prowess personified, scaling the heights of happiness. Is this true? Chapter 13. Vishrutta's story. A satire and representation of Kutula's Aristocrata. The kingdom of Vidarbhara. Vishruta finds in the Vidarbharan forest a young boy who has not eaten or drunk for a great period. The boy informs Vishruta that an old man who was trying to help the boy fell into a well. Vishruta is told he can still save him. Vishruta is able to save the old man. He finds water and food for both. Vishruta asks who the boy is. The old man speaks of a kingdom called Vidarbhara. The boy is the son of a great king called Apaharavarman who died. The man speaks at length about Apaharavarman as an example of a good ruler. His son, Antivarman, though he had many good aspects, unfortunately was lacking in good government. Vishruta, protector of wealth, his father's old minister, warns Antivarman that in the era of politics, he is not wise. The fall of Arthapala. Arthapala also has a courtier called Virahabhadra. He was best at making sure that his friend had every pleasure at hand. Arthapala had originally decided that he would follow the old minister's advice, but he is persuaded by Virahabhadra to abandon learning the skill of political science. Apaharavarman at length goes through what the Arthapala teaches about how a king should rule. At the end, however, he makes clear how tiring and difficult it is, and he persuades the king that would it not be better to enjoy life's pleasures instead? After all, the king has everything, wealth beyond means and a huge army, so his rule is totally secure. Or is it? Virahabhadra instead advises the king to only allow ministers who are qualified to govern his realm. Vishruta laments, but he will not abandon the king, though he sees how much the state is in danger. He foresees that the politically savvy lord of Arthapala, Vishruta, also has his hands almost on the kingdom. Chandapalita, the lord of Arthapala's minister, arrives at court and pretends that his father, Indrapalita, has exiled him because of bad actions. With performers and female dancers and secret agents disguised as servants, Chandapalita deceives the helpless king. Quickly, Chandapalita takes over effective reign over the affairs of state. The minister also advises in a speech that the king should only focus on gambling, hunting, and sleeping with women in his court, and of the benefits of excessive drinking. Chandapalita makes Arthapala become a bad king. The minister tells him that evil words, harsh justice, and the taking of land from others is good for his health. The people unfortunately follow their king's example. As the state falls apart, Arthapala also makes sure that Vindabharan's soldiers are poisoned or killed off in many different and horrible ways, usually involving allurement of beautiful women. Rajavahana asks Arthapala of Vanavasi to invade Vindabhara. Rajavahana pretends to ally with Arthapala along with the other vassals. Along with the other kings, Arthapala wishes Kishamalabhasa, the nymph Urvashi on earth, a great dancer of Adavandeva, Kuntala's king, to dance before him. While she is intoxicated, his passion for her leads him to sleep with her, to the anger of the other rulers. Rajavahana points out to the ruler of Antadeveva that Arthapala cannot rule well, and that he is sleeping with their women. Rajavahana tells them that they can, with the other vassal kings, betray Arthapala's army from behind when they attack Vanavasi's army. This occurs, and Arthapala loses his kingdom. Rajavahana also cleverly uses the spoils of the war to divide his allies. He conquers them and takes over the whole region originally ruled by Arthapala. The old minister, Vishruta, saves the family of Arthapala, but he dies in a fever soon afterwards. The salvation of Arthapala's family. The old man who is telling the story to Vishruta took Arthapala's family and his queen, Vishruta, to the city called Mahishmati. Mitragupta was Arthapala's half-brother by a different mother, and he ruled Mahishmati. He desired Vishruta, but she rejected him. She cared only for the task of preparing her young son, Daśakumāracarita, who is the youth with Vishruta, for the throne. Vishruta informs her good friend, Nalajahara, which means reed shank, who is the old man, to take the boy far away and save him. Vishruta asks about the lineage of the boy, who his mother was born to, and realizes that he is related to him. His father and the boy's mother have the same paternal grandfather. Vishruta makes a solemn declaration that he will protect the boy, and that he will see him back on his throne. Vishruta hears from a hunter that in Maheshmati, Apaharavarman, the younger brother of Chandavarman, is going to the city to marry Manjuvardhani, the daughter of Mitragupta. Maheshmati. Vishruta's method. Plot. Vishruta asks the old man to go back to the city and to tell the queen that the boy is safe, but then cry out outside that a tiger has eaten him. The evil Mitragupta will secretly be happy, but will display grief so that he can get closer to the queen. Due to the death of her son, Rajavahana should be instructed to say to Mitragupta that she will finally give in and she will marry him. In happiness, he will embrace her at that point, and Rajavahana should strike his chest with a garland which has been dipped in poison. Rajavahana will also be given an antidote to the poison. Vishruta instructs that the queen should send a message to Apaharavarman and tell him that since there is no king, he should rule the region. Vishruta by this time will have disguised himself and the prince as Kabbalistic ascetics, which are followers of the god Shiva who hold skulls. They will not accept alms from anyone, only the queen, and this will be a way for them to get in contact with them. Vishruta instructs further that the queen will tell her elders that she has had a dream involving the goddess Vidhavasi, who dwells in the Vidharas. On the 4th day from this point, Apaharavarman will die. On the 5th, people should go to the temple of the goddess. There Vishruta will reveal the prince as a great revelation. The queen should also say that the goddess took the form of a tigress and saved the prince by making him disappear. Vishruta also reveals that the daughter of the queen, Manjuvardhani, will marry him. Vishruta and the prince in disguise go to the palace for alms and meet the queen and her daughter, and they speak about what will happen. Manjuvardhani falls in love with Vishruta. The end of Vishruta's story and the beginning of the Arthapala. As an acrobat with daggers, Vishruta kills Apaharavarman while he's being entertained. As he kills him, his words also incriminate Rajavahana, and he says, "May Rajavahana live 1,000 years." The queen informs Chandavarman Rajavahana was responsible for the death of Apaharavarman. Everything occurs as Vishruta has planned. Vishruta persuades the minister, Araketi, Mitragupta's minister, to go over to his side. Here Dandin's work ends and the Arthapala, the postscript conclusion, begins, since the original ending seems to have been lost. Part of the postscript is still narrated by Vishruta. Vishruta in a battle fights Rajavahana, and as a superior swordsman he cuts off his head with one strike. Vishruta is given Apaharavarman's kingdom. He is summoned to support Chandavarman and so meets up with the other princes. The ending. Rajavahana and the princes attack Ujjayini and kill his father's enemy, Manasara. Rajavahana becomes king, and his father, Rajahamsa, enters an ashram and becomes a forest dweller. This is initially opposed by Rajavahana. All the princes rule their kingdoms and the story ends. This ending is very short and simple. I may write a blog about this since many threads, Dhammasara and other conflicts are not explained in the conclusion. The relationship between the Daśakumāracarita and the Avantisundari. It was a fascinating task to disentangle pieces of the first broken fragment, which is full of gaps and misplaced leaves, to see the story emerge as from a jigsaw puzzle and discover how the second fragment fitted exactly with it. These words of scholar Anthony Kennedy Warder are very fitting because the Daśakumāracarita is an intriguing, incomplete puzzle. Why is this the case? First, the Pushpodbhava introduction and a part of the main narrative and the story's Uttarapala conclusion do not belong to the original Daśakumāracarita by Dandin. These parts were written by an anonymous hand much later, based on a Telugu poet Karatanga's translation of the book, mid-13th century CE, who had access to the whole work. We know this because the Purvapithaka and the Uttarapithaka read like summaries. There are also errors in details and naming of characters between the middle part of the story and these non-dating parts. In the earlier 20th century, another related jigsaw was found with fragments of a literary work entitled Avantisundari. The title refers to the lady Avantisundari. She is Rajavahana's love interest and eventual queen. The Avantisundari covers most of the Purvapithaka and a part of the main story of the Daśakumāracarita, and both works share very similar details and episodes. The Avantisundari also contains an introduction which explains Dandin's ancestry, provides the story of why he wrote the work. There are some important differences between the Avantisundari and the Daśakumāracarita. The style of the former is much more elaborate and contains extensive descriptions in a similar way to Bana's Kandabara and Subhadra's Vasavadatta. The Avantisundari is much more detailed in its examination of the previous lives of various characters such as Rajavahana. Reincarnation adds a very significant dimension to the main narrative, and this is only briefly sketched out by Dandin in the Daśakumāracarita. The involvement of conflicts between divine and celestial beings such as Karma, the god of erotic love and pleasure within these previous lives, and between couples or families may explain the involvement of gods like Shiva in the story. This is something I am interested in examining further. In terms of time, some characters' lifetimes cross many ancient Indian dynasties, and in my personal experience I found the Avantisundari very difficult to follow, since why and how a character acts and relates to others, and their destiny in the story, is determined by their previous lives. It's not an easy read like the other work. I think, however, that the Avantisundari makes the basic story seen in the Daśakumāracarita much more compelling and interesting. The third issue is how the Daśakumāracarita was received in later Indian literature. A main key source, a later writer called Rajahamsa, only states that Dandin wrote 3 literary works. This has led to different scholarly interpretations of Dandin's authorship of the surviving fragmented writings which bear his name. Scholars fall into 3 camps. 1. The Daśakumāracarita was not written by Dandin. These scholars argue this primarily because of the difference of styles between the Avantisundari and the Daśakumāracarita. They also theorize that the Daśakumāracarita was written by a writer who called himself Dandin, which would mean that there was more than one writer with this name. 2. The Daśakumāracarita was written by Dandin. The difference of style can be explained that the Daśakumāracarita is a work of his youth. The Avantisundari, the fragments and the fragments of an anonymous summary entitled the Avantisundari indicate that the work would have been longer than the surviving Daśakumāracarita if it had survived in its entirety, and it was a mature work. Kavidasa and the Avantisundari are ascribed in their colophons with a title Arakara, which means professor, whereas the other work is not. 3. A view similar to Camp 2. However, these scholars argue that the Avantisundari was the original introduction to the Daśakumāracarita, since it covers the introductory parts of the story. The Avantisundari story goes further than the introduction section of the Daśakumāracarita. My current view after reading scholarship on both works by Dandin is that the Daśakumāracarita, the Avantisundari, are distinct works of the author. The Avantisundari cannot be the original Purvapithaka, but they should be studied together. Thank you for listening to this.